What's good, everyone? Today we're talking about the most famous wrongful conviction in history. And I'm not talking about some recent case that got overturned. I'm talking about a case that's been going on for thousands of years. A case where the accused has been taking the blame for literally everything that's ever gone wrong in human history. I'm talking about Satan, the devil, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. And I'm about to blow your mind with this one because what if he's completely innocent? What if the most infamous figure of all time has been getting railroaded since day one? There's a saying in jail that everybody in there is innocent. It's funny because if you're locked up, you're always going to say, but I didn't do it. And it's hilarious because most of them actually did do the thing and they know it. So they say, everybody's innocent in here as a joke. That's like a mic drop, right? You get it. But then you think about it, there are actual innocent people in there. So it works both ways. That's the paradox. Most people are guilty, but claim they're innocent. But some people really are innocent, and nobody believes them. What if Satan is that guy? What if the most demonized figure in all of human history is sitting in cosmic prison for a crime he never committed? What if he's been saying, I didn't do it for thousands of years, and everybody just laughs because, come on, you're the devil. Let's break this down because this is about to get wild. First, let's go back to the original crime scene, the Garden of Eden. What exactly did Satan do? He offered Eve some fruit and told her what would happen if she ate it. That's it. That's the whole crime. But hold up. Who told him he couldn't do that? Show me the law that says, thou shalt not offer fruit to humans. I'll wait, because it doesn't exist. Nobody ever told the serpent not to talk to Eve. Nobody ever said, hey, don't tell humans the truth about what this fruit will do. God told Adam and Eve not to eat from the tree, but God never told Satan not to offer it. So what law did he break? What rule did he violate? This is like the police rolling up on you and saying, give me your ID, and you're like, for what crime? Because offering someone fruit isn't illegal. Telling someone the truth about what will happen if they make a choice isn't illegal. Satan basically got ID'd by the cosmic police for standing while black. No crime, no violation, just existing in the wrong place at the wrong time and getting blamed for everything that happened after. But here's where it gets really crazy. Let's look at what Satan actually said to Eve. He told her, you will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Was he lying? Nope. Did they die immediately after eating the fruit? Nope. Did their eyes get opened? Yep. Did they become like God, knowing good and evil? That's exactly what happened. God even admits it later, saying, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. So Satan told the complete truth. He was more honest with Eve than God was, and he gets labeled as the father of lies. That's some serious victim blaming right there. Think about this logically. If you're in court and the prosecution's star witness told the truth while the other party wasn't completely honest, who's the credible one? Satan's testimony was 100% accurate, but somehow he's the bad guy? Now let's talk about free will. Christians are always talking about how God gave humans free will, right? The ability to choose between good and evil. But how can you have free will if you don't know your options? How can you choose between good and evil if you don't even know evil exists? Satan didn't corrupt humanity, he informed them. He gave them the information they needed to actually exercise the free will God supposedly gave them. Without Satan's intervention, Adam and Eve would have been mindless robots following programming. That's not free will, that's slavery. Satan was the first freedom fighter, the first one to say, hey, you have choices you don't even know about. He was the cosmic civil rights activist, trying to wake people up to their own rights and abilities. But he gets painted as evil for it. That's like arresting the guy who tells slaves they can run away and calling him the villain for corrupting them. No, he's giving them information they deserve to have. And here's the kicker. Without Satan's supposed crime, there would be no Jesus. Think about it. No fall means no sin. No sin means no need for salvation. No need for salvation means no crucifixion, no resurrection, no Christianity. Satan literally made the entire Christian religion possible. He set up the dominoes for the greatest story ever told. Without his actions in the garden, Jesus would just be some carpenter nobody ever heard of. Satan is basically the executive producer of Christianity, and they still treat him like the villain. That's like arresting the guy who called 911 and blaming him for the crime the police discovered when they showed up. Satan created the conditions that made salvation necessary and possible, and somehow that makes him evil. Let's talk about his other supposed crimes: pride, rebellion, wanting to be like God. But didn't Satan succeed in making humans like God? Isn't that exactly what happened when Adam and Eve gained knowledge of good and evil? If anything, Satan was working toward God's ultimate plan, not against it. The fall wasn't a bug in God's system, it was a feature. It was necessary for humans to develop consciousness, moral awareness, the ability to choose between right and wrong. You can't be truly good if you've never had the option to be bad. You can't be righteous if you don't know what unrighteousness looks like. Satan provided the contrast that makes goodness meaningful. He's not the enemy of the story. He's the catalyst that makes the story possible. But somehow he's been taking the blame for every bad thing that's ever happened. War, Satan's fault. Disease, Satan's fault. Natural disasters, Satan's fault. Your car won't start, probably Satan's fault too. This guy has been the ultimate scapegoat for thousands of years. Every time something goes wrong, it's Satan's doing. Every time humans make bad choices, it's because Satan tempted them. We've turned him into the cosmic fall guy for all of human responsibility. That's convenient as hell, isn't it? Make bad choices and blame the devil. Start wars and say Satan made you do it. Hurt people and claim you were tempted by evil forces. Satan becomes the ultimate excuse for human behavior while humans get to play victim. But what if humans are just humans? What if we make bad choices because we're flawed, not because some supernatural entity is whispering in our ears? What if Satan has been taking the blame for human nature itself? Here's another angle. Satan is supposedly the ruler of hell, right? The place where bad people get punished for eternity. So Satan is running the prison system for cosmic criminals. He's literally working in law enforcement, making sure bad people get what they deserve. How does that make him the bad guy? That makes him a corrections officer. If anything, Satan and God are partners in the criminal justice system. God makes the laws, Satan runs the prison. But somehow Satan gets painted as the villain for doing his job. That's like blaming the warden for the existence of criminals. And let's be real about the job Satan supposedly has. He's supposed to tempt humans and test their faith. But who gave him that job? If God is all-powerful and all-knowing, then Satan is working for God, not against him. Satan is quality control for human souls. He's the stress test that proves who's really committed and who's just going through the motions. The book of Job makes this crystal clear. Satan has to ask God's permission before he can test Job. He's not some rogue agent working against God's will. He's a contractor hired to do specific work, and he does exactly what he's hired to do. But somehow that makes him evil? That's like hiring a personal trainer to push you to your limits and then calling them abusive when they make you do push-ups. Satan is humanity's personal trainer, and we hate him for making us work for our salvation. Think about this from Satan's perspective for a minute. You're created by God to do a specific job. You do that job exactly as intended. You tell the truth when others don't. You provide the contrast that makes free will possible. You run the punishment system for cosmic justice. You test people's faith to prove their worthiness. And for doing your job perfectly, you get blamed for everything that goes wrong in the universe. You become the most hated figure in history. Every religion paints you as ultimate evil. People use your name as a curse word. You can't catch a break anywhere. That's the ultimate wrongful conviction. Satan has been sitting in cosmic prison, not even prison, cosmic exile, for a crime he didn't commit while doing the job he was created to do. And nobody wants to hear his side of the story because they've already decided he's guilty. Even his name got turned against him. Lucifer means light bringer or morning star. That's a beautiful name that describes someone who brings illumination and enlightenment. But now when you say Lucifer, people think of horns and pitchforks and eternal damnation. Imagine if your name meant teacher or helper, and somehow over the centuries it became synonymous with pure evil. That's what happened to this guy. His actual job description, bringing light, providing knowledge, testing faith, got twisted into the opposite of what it really means. So here's what I think really happened. Humans needed someone to blame for their own bad choices. They needed a cosmic scapegoat who could take responsibility for all the evil in the world, so they didn't have to face the fact that they're capable of evil all by themselves. Satan became that scapegoat, the ultimate fall guy, the eternal other who represents everything we don't want to admit about ourselves. We projected all our shadow onto him and then convinced ourselves he was the problem. But what if the problem isn't Satan? What if the problem is us not taking responsibility for our own choices? What if we've been blaming an innocent party for thousands of years because it's easier than admitting we're the ones who chose to eat the fruit? Eve didn't have to listen to the serpent. Adam didn't have to eat the fruit Eve offered him. They made those choices. Satan didn't force them. He didn't trick them. He told them the truth about what would happen and let them decide. That's not corruption, that's informed consent. So maybe it's time we showed some sympathy for the devil. Maybe it's time we recognized that the most infamous figure in history might also be the most innocent. Maybe it's time we stopped using Satan as an excuse for human behavior and started taking responsibility for our own choices. Because if everybody in cosmic jail is innocent, and most of them actually did the crime they're accused of, Satan might be the one guy in there who really didn't do anything wrong. He might be the ultimate innocent man, sitting in eternal punishment for the crime of telling the truth and doing his job. And if that's the case, then the real crime isn't what Satan did in the garden. The real crime is what we've been doing to him ever since. Think about that next time someone blames the devil for human evil. Maybe the devil is just another victim of a system that needs someone to blame. Maybe he's been taking the heat for our choices because we're not brave enough to own them ourselves. Maybe it's time to set the record straight. The most innocent man in history might just be the one we've been calling the most guilty. And that's the real paradox of evil. Sometimes the biggest villain is actually the biggest victim. Everybody in cosmic jail says they're innocent. And maybe, just maybe, Satan is telling the truth. Thanks for listening, and remember, question everything, especially the stories that make someone else responsible for your choices. Sometimes the devil you know is just the scapegoat you created.